This might be the best drawing I've ever made. Let's get into it. So I work full time, which means that most of my art creation happens in mornings, late at night, or on weekends. My original plan was to fill this whole page of A2 paper with lots of detailed drawings. One of the drawings I did last week was part of that, but as I drew this and time got closer to the deadline, I just knew that that wasn't feasible. So what I decided to do instead was to make this one drawing as good as it could be, and I'm so glad that I did. I've drawn peonies quite a lot before, but never really like this. I've always wanted to try it, but I just never sort of dedicated that time. And it had actually been a few years since I last did one, as I've been focusing more on painting. So it felt like I was relying on muscle memory quite a bit. But once I got into the shading, something like changed. I felt way more energy with the piece, and this was the first moment where I thought, like, this could actually turn into something really great. When I got to the vase, I honestly wasn't sure what to do. At first I was thinking of keeping it lighter and more angular, but the more I looked at it, the more I felt like that would pull attention away from the main subject, which was the snake and the peonies. So I took a bit of a risk and just started pushing a lot of the darker tones. I added a bit more detail, more contrast, and it completely changed the feel of the piece. The lighting especially made it come together, and the top of the vase actually ended up being one of my favourite parts of the whole piece. So I thought I'd dive into a little bit more about where the idea came from for this piece. I've always been really drawn to the Japanese tattoo style, and especially the balance of bold shapes and forms with really fine detail. So the snake and the peonies felt like a really interesting concept. So peonies are something that I'm really comfortable with drawing, but I've never drawn in this style, like I said before. And snakes, I've done a couple before, but I've never felt fully happy with the result. So I really wanted to challenge myself. I also think the softness of the flowers and the aggressiveness of the snake was a really interesting juxtaposition. And I also think the theme of life and death is something that is quite a classic theme to play on. And I wanted to do this in a way that wasn't really in your face, but it suggested it. Even the vase can be up for interpretation. It can be seen as a vase that holds flowers, which kind of retains life, or it could be an urn, which is holding death, essentially. Now, I didn't have any sort of perfect reference, and I was kind of conscious not to reference too much in this piece. I've been drawing a lot from photos that I've taken recently and painting from photos that I've taken recently, and I really wanted to rely more on my imagination for this one. And I think there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes from creating something just from your mind. I don't want to talk about AI, but I think with the amount of AI that's happening and the use of it, I think everything comes back to the enjoyment of the process and using your brain, that I think is just really refreshing. So I think ultimately that's what made this piece feel a bit different. it was that struggle of me trying to make things work and figuring things out and learning whilst I was doing it. And I think that gives you a sense of pride when it works out. And I think a big part of why I like this drawing so much is because if I think back to sort of the early years of me drawing when I was sort of 13, 14 at school, I feel like my 14-year-old self, 13-year-old self would be so stoked with this drawing. And it's not to say that I think this is the best drawing that's ever been made, but I think there is something in looking at how far you've come, because sometimes you can forget how much you've progressed. Anyway, enough of me chatting. Let's get back to the drawing. Up to this point, everything was flowing pretty well, but then it was time for the hardest part. I had no idea how long these scales were going to take, and I was a bit worried they just end up all blending into each other. So I really focused on getting strong contrast into each one, pushing the darks and the highlights to create that separation. If you like this video so far, please give it a like, it'll really help. Then I went back over everything to add more depth and shadow, and honestly, for the first fully scaled snake I've ever drawn, I'm so happy with how it turned out. So with most of the work done, it is now all about the finishing touches. I went back in with an eraser to clean up areas and carve out some highlights, just to sharpen everything up and add a bit more contrast. Those small details don't seem like much, but they really bring the whole piece together, I think. I also spent some time just refining edges and making sure everything felt more balanced. So after a few early mornings, late nights and an intense weekend of drawing and fitting this around work, this is how it turned out. Hey guys, if you're still watching, I just want to say thank you so much. Might be able to tell that the quality's gone up slightly at the end. I've just got a new camera, so hopefully the next video will be even better than this one. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you next time.